So hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Real Talk with Brendan Bartik. This episode, I'm very excited that we're going to be meeting with Chuck Buckingham, who is an amazing CEO, team leader, real estate broker, father, husband, an absolute just all-around amazing guy that's going to be talking to us about a lot of key things. How do you make that transition from corporate life or regular 9-to-5 job to real estate and those decisions that go into that? How do you balance that with your family? He's going to talk to us about leadership and his views on it. And then he's also going to talk to us about something that's very important, which is empathy and how to create a world built from a mindset of that word, empathy, and how to basically work with others and just come from a total empathetic mindset that I know is going to be a game changer for all of you. So get ready. I'm excited, and we're going to jump right in. Super excited today that we get to have Chuck Buckingham joining us, who is a CEO of a 200 firm brokerage in Denver, Colorado. He is an amazing realtor, also an amazing father, husband, all around amazing guy. So today we're going to be introducing him. We're going to be talking a lot about his path to leadership, his journey, how he basically keeps all this put together and has an amazing work-life balance, or at least some sort of balance whatsoever. So Chuck, thanks so much for joining us. Again, I can't tell you how much it's been a pleasure to get to know you and kind of get to see who you are and what you're all about. I think our listeners today are going to really get a lot of good, not only inspirational nuggets, but I think hopefully maybe understand how you can go from, a corporate career to real estate to father to all of these things. So we're going to have some fun today, but without further ado, Chuck, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you're at right now.
Sure, Brendan, it's an absolute honor to be here. Thank you so much for making time for me. I've got a bit of a different path. I did 16 years in the corporate world selling beer. But I've always had a passion for real estate, and got licensed about 5-6 years ago and have been on a journey, not the smoothest journey into real estate as I would have hoped, but it's been a great journey and really, really enjoying it. My passion's always been in real estate and helping others. And that's kind of how I transitioned into real estate. If you can sell beer, you can sell homes.
If you can sell beer, you can sell homes. So that is a very unique transition. What brought you to that choice? I know a lot of our listeners are going, hey, I'm in this corporate world. I know it's everything I know. We get a lot of people that are going, hey, should I leave? Does it make sense? So what was that deciding factor that said, I'm done with corporate and I'm going this route?
Yeah, so I had a great run in corporate. I got to live in Hong Kong. I got to live in England selling beer. I got to live in Canada and Chicago and Denver. And I've learned a lot. But you know what? I was always working for someone else, Brendan. I was always helping someone else grow their business, our stakeholders, our shareholders. And at the end of the day, I didn't like having someone else own my destiny. I wanted to be in business for myself. Not have, hey, Chuck, you're moving to this city, you're moving to this town, your job's being changed. I wanted to truly own my own business and help others buy and sell homes.
I love it. So it sounds like for most people, it's freedom, right? That word that we think about is, I don't want to have to answer to somebody, and you don't want to have to move around because of your job. And real estate gives that to you.
Absolutely. I think that, when I was in my 20s and 30s, moved to this town, great, go. Now that I'm a father and, married, this is home. We're laying down roots. And I think one of the biggest things that I felt when I became an individual agent was owning my destiny. I set my hours. I know the rug is never going to get pulled out from under me. My work is going to be directly correlated to my effort. And that's something that is truly rewarding that you can only get in owning your own business.
Right. Looking at your past, your mom was a real estate agent in Canada. Tell me a little bit about growing up in a real estate environment. Did that shy you away from things? Did that make you more inclined to it? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So as a kid, if I wanted to go to McDonald's, I had to go and deliver some just solds or just listeds in the local neighborhood in order to go to McDonald's. But yeah, she got. I was born in '79. She was licensed in '81, and originally got into it to be a part-time agent. But really was successful at connecting with others and getting homes sold. And in her heyday, she was doing 70, 80 transactions on her own, and also
Wow.
raising two knuckleheads, my brother and I, and having a pretty good life. Like we were able to, go on family vacation. So I saw that as something I really, really wanted. But when it came time to graduating from college, she actually offered me a position on her team with the plan of ultimately taking over her business that she grew. And I was 26 years old and said, no, I'd rather go sell beer and it sounds more fun. So I'm going to go do that for 16 years, full circle back. And I realized what I left behind was an amazing established business. But I'm going to create my own here now.
I love it. I love it. And then even looking back to that, then, coming from that family, I think we also see a lot of people that are transitioning and they're wondering, how does that work-life balance work with kids and schools? So you lived through it. I guess, tell us some of the like advantages and disadvantages, right? Right. Like just to be upfront with everybody, what was some of the obviously good things, but I'm sure just like anything, there's some drawbacks.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I mentioned this to you, Brendan, in maybe my first quarter, was I've never had a job where it's so much related to your effort. If you're doing the time, you're making the calls, you're doing the due diligence, you're going to have a great business. If you like talking about that, but don't pull in the legwork, it's not going to get anywhere. I've never had a job in my entire career that is so cause and effect of the work you put in, the effort you put in to what you're ultimately going to get out of it and what your lifestyle is going to look like.
Gotcha. So you're back in Canada. It's a Saturday, and all the other kids are, their parents are off, and you're dropping off, just solds. So, I mean, is there any kind of negative to that? Is there, sometimes, mom's late, showing houses, and it's not a standard 9 to 5. So, is there any concerns there, or did you ever notice that in your life at any means where you're like, hey, this kind of sucks. I wish my mom had like a 9 to 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually she worked really well with my dad. So he had the 9 to 5, and he was the one who was out the door and would be at work. But they'd kind of pass the kid baton around 5:30 as she'd go on listing appointments, and she'd be back in the day writing contracts on the hood of a car at 11:30 at night, not getting home till 1. But she was making it happen, and I was able to have the best of both worlds as a child. I was able to have my mom get us ready for school. We'd actually could be able to come home for lunch, which not many of our friends could be able to do, and she was able to pick us up and help us with our homework afterwards. And then our dad would be able to come back and put us to bed. So from an interaction perspective with my parents, I got the best of both worlds. If they're both 9 to 5ers, I'd see them very little.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So now then in your career path, so we travel the world with Coors, we're selling beer, we decide to make this transition. Tell me, with your husband and your son and all this, the conversations, was it, hey, I'm doing this and it's happening, or was there any nerves about that at the family level, or was it like, hey, let's rock it out?
Oh, there was, yeah, I had a lot of false starts. So I mentioned I've been licensed. I've been licensed for 5 years. Four of them was a lot of up and downs. I was at a discount brokerage, and you get what you pay for, right?
Sure.
I was promised some training, and they sent me to YouTube to view some training videos. That was about it. And I did 4 to 5 transactions a year at the beginning. That's not enough, especially going from what I was making at Coors to make ends meet. And I was unfortunately really close to being one of the 82% that gets out of the business in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And I realized that I needed the support, I needed the accountability to take my career where I wanted to go. So it was not a smooth leave my corporate job and then the phone is ringing off the hook because Chuck's selling homes and we've been waiting for him to get licensed. It was a hustle, and it was a lot of false starts. But really, once I got a coach and once I got the accountability piece, it all just clicked.
Right. And I think that's probably the main concern for people is how do I transition from that world into regular real estate and still be able to carry my income and have my family and not go broke? So was there a plan where you were like, hey, we're going to make sure we have this much put aside? Was there, or was it, hey, we're going for it? I mean, I'm sure you had something put aside, but because like you said, with false starts, you kind of jump in and then you jump back out. You jump back in. So I guess talk to me a little bit about, was there a family meeting and you said, look, to do this, we got to have X amount? Or was it, hey, I know I'm going to get this. I know I'm going to rock this out. So talk to me a little bit about that.
No, there was actually, I can remember very clearly two conversations. First was when I went into real estate to start with. And at that point, it was the sky's the limit. This is going to be easy. And I think we had a real serious conversation 2 years in and said, this isn't working. I want to give it one extra try. I just need that support and the accountability. And really, my advice to any broker that's newly licensed or making that transition is, you get what you pay for. A brokerage that's going to give you that support and that encouragement and that accountability is worth its weight in gold versus a discount brokerage that you might have a flat transition fee. Because my whole career tipped, and shameless plug for KW, but my whole career tipped when I joined KW, when I had the coaching, when I had the accountability. It moved from a hobby where I was frustrated for making mistakes to a career where my learning curve was steep as possible, and I was getting all the people to invest in me and behind me, and where I was able to go up to 16 transactions, from 4 transactions a year to 16 a year, all from the brokerage, the support that I was getting, and believing in myself.
Right. And obviously, talking about work ethic, when I say the word workaholic, does that resonate with you?
At times. So at times I am a workaholic. I do like to work and I do like to see the rewards, but I do have an off switch. I protect my time and my family as best as I possibly can, because I don't want to be, 55 years old and looking back at 10, 15 years in the business that I didn't really get to see my son grow up. So I'm a workaholic in spurts, if that makes sense, if that's logical.
Gotcha. And was that you at age 5? Was that you at age, 15? Was there some sort of like, we talk about work ethic and we look at people and we go, wow, that guy is just driven, right? He's out there just killing it. Like, oh my gosh. Was it always that way when you were young? Or was there a point where you woke up one day and you go, all right, I'm done, being the hippie surfer, and I'm like, hey, let's go get this done. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I did not grow up with this mentality at all. In fact, there's certain points in your life, Brendan, that you can be like, that is a game changer. There was a light that went off. And for me, in my high school years, I was a fat kid. I didn't like exercise, but I liked eating, and I didn't like trying in school. So in Canada, if you get 51%, at the end of the year, you pass and go on to the next. And so I would know just the number of effort to get 51 so I can go on to the next grade. And it drove my parents nuts because they saw potential, but I was just lazy. Like, I was really lazy. And then when I was about 15 years old, my older brother, 3 years older, was at university. I went to go visit him for a weekend. And I had such an amazing time. And I saw this amazing life that you can have for you with education, with culture, with all these amazing things that go along with university. And I came back, put my head down, and I went from a 51% student to an 81% student, graduated with honors, president of my student council, got into college, did a great college degree. And since then, that's just stuck with me, that work hard mentality. But it was not always the way. It was not always the case at all.
Gotcha. So a lot in there. So let's go back to you as a overweight kid. I'm trying to be politically correct, right? So where did that come from? Was that just, lifestyle? Your mom's just, making these massive meals? Or I guess, how did that happen? And now looking at you in your peak of fitness, if you will, or at least pretty darn close, what happened when you were younger?
Yeah, so my family was super active. We'd go on skiing trips. We'd do, a lot of activities. My brother was super fit. We played all the sports. I just really enjoyed eating much more than being active. And if it was carbs and it was, fried, count me in. So I didn't come from a line of obesity. I was just really lazy, Brendan. At that time,
Gotcha.
I wanted to play Nintendo and eat Cheetos, and I could finish the whole bag.
Gotcha. And I think that's great to hear for the listeners. Wherever you start is not how you have to finish, right? And I think, when we really talk about that, this will lead into kind of my next questions about, transition from then real estate agent to CEO. Well, not transition because you still do both, at a very high level. So I think for a lot of our people, they're going, look, I'm stuck here, right? I'm kind of, this is the plan that the world gave me. And then you said you kind of had this epiphany. And then from there, you kind of drove it until where you're at now. So for those people that are out there going, life handed me these cards, right? What would you tell those that are listening about, how do you break through that? How do you get out of your head? Talk to me about all of that.
Yeah. So again, it comes back to my comment early on: effort equals results. So I was in high school. I was in special education, and my parents were told when I was about 11 that I had a learning disability and that I would not graduate high school, let alone go to college. And my parents really, didn't really, that went in one ear and out the other with my parents. They were like, no, his effort, if he tries hard, he can get there. So they hired me a tutor. I hated tutors. I hated Monday nights. I hated everything about that. But they pushed me to, try harder. And it wasn't until that visit at university that it clicked. And I said, if I try a little bit harder than what I've been doing, a little bit harder, I can get those results. That got me to college. And then even at Coors, I was, a director of marketing, the youngest director they had, not because I was the smartest guy in the room, but because I worked as hard as I possibly could and connected with others. That's what it's about.
Gotcha. So obviously, as you progressed, what the transition of leaving Canada and coming to the States and then going overseas, that's all because of the job, correct? Did you ever think
Absolutely.
you'd be sitting here in Denver? Was that ever on the horizon?
No, it's just been opportunity after opportunity. And it's been the back of my head has always said, why not? Same with real estate. What's holding you back? You are holding yourself back. And that's something I always tell myself. The first time I met you and we started deciding to work together, I said, what's holding you back from working with Brendan? And I said, you're holding yourself back. Give it a go. And it's worked out phenomenally, obviously.
Right. So make the transition. You're at a kind of a more discount broker, kind of pedaling around there. Now are the CEO of a large brokerage in Cherry Creek. If you were to rewind a year ago, would you think you'd be in this role today?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I had I've walked you through once. I've got a business plan that kind of had 5 years down the road of where I wanted to take my business as an individual agent, maybe even growing into a team. But again, opportunity struck, and I really love what I'm doing now. I wouldn't expect to be in this role so soon in my real estate career. But again, it's about connecting with others, seeing the ultimately the outlook of where we want to go, and then just driving to go get that.
Right. And then so when you're looking at it, we had talked about leading with empathy. When I think of that word, I always remind myself that, you can be empathetic, but not apologetic for either your own life or other people's lives. So talk to me a little bit about when I say that phrase, leading with empathy, what does that mean to you? And how has that kind of maybe shaped some of your parameters on how you operate?
Yeah, absolutely. So before jumping into leadership and empathy, I just want to talk about empathy for a second, because a lot of people, I think, get empathy and sympathy mixed up. They're close, but they're not the same. So let me give you an example, and then I'll give you a business example. So an example of sympathy, Brendan: you stub your toe, and I go, "Ooh, that hurts." That's sympathy. I've taken on your emotions, and because I can remember feeling that way. Empathy, on the other hand, is acting on someone else's behalf. So that same example, you stub your toe, and I say, "Oh, Brandon, sit down. I'm going to grab you an ice pack. I'm going to get you a gin and tonic or crown and ginger ale, whatever it is, because I know that's going to make you feel better." That's the difference between sympathy and empathy. And a lot of people are sympathetic, but they don't do anything. So let's put that in the business context. Sympathy would be I go to my neighbor's house because we've been friends for a long time and they're a block away. And we go over there. And when I pull up, I kind of notice, wow, that house across the road is kind of not being kept up nicely. It used to look a lot nicer. And over the course of dinner, they say, we used to love sitting on our porch, but we don't sit on the porch because we don't like looking at the tall weeds and the scraped paint and all that kind of stuff. Sympathy would be, well, that sucks, Brennan. Empathy would be acting on their behalf. You know what? I've got a landscaper that could probably put some bushes up front. You would never see that. Or better yet, you guys talked about getting that condo downtown. It's now the time for us to start looking. Let's get you out of here. That's acting on their behalf. That's empathy. And that's really powerful.
And that's a major, major mind shift, I think, for most people. So did you wake up one day and you were like, hey, I'm gonna, be this way? Or how did you learn that skill, I guess?
Yeah, actually, one of my jobs in Coors was director of adult learning. So we would actually go across the country. I've taught this course probably about 35 times on empathy and being powered by empathy, which you can apply to a sales rep in Croatia or a VP of marketing in New York City. Doesn't matter your title, but it is how to act with empathy, because it is a powerful shift to not be sympathetic, but to act on others' behalf. And that's what empathy is. And that's what I'm going to be rolling out with our top agents here later this year as well, is powered by empathy, top agent performance.
Yeah, because I could see how that would be an extremely powerful tool to have for a real estate agent, right? Like when we look at the people that we deal with and the scenarios, I think sometimes as agents, we lose a lot of that. I was just having this conversation the other day where I said, people, if a house isn't selling, the agent takes that on themselves as if it's their fault that house isn't selling, right? And if they've done everything correctly, it's not their fault. It's the fact that with them trying to sell that house, that either the seller is not receptive to them, to the pricing scenarios or whatever it might be, but it's not their fault, right? So again, like you said, you could be empathetic for the seller, but not sympathetic. So I was thinking of your word, having sympathy for them. So in your real estate transactions, can you maybe give us an example or a scenario where you've gone through this and kind of used those techniques?
Absolutely. So one of the big shifts when I went from being mediocre agent at discount brokerage doing five a year to 16 a year was expireds. I love expireds. I love getting up early. I love sending them an email. I created a website for them, and then I would call them and text them. And on that listing appointment, before I got out of my car, I would actually say, be empathetic. And it sounds so small, but when I'm going in there, another person with the title Realtor has let them down. And so I'm going in there, I'm being empathetic, 2 ears, one mouth, double the listening and half the talking, and I'm empathetic. And I'm empathetic, but I'm acting on their behalf. So when I talk to them about, why do you think your home didn't sell? I'm listening, I'm taking notes, and I'm also jotting down how I can act. Because sympathy is just, well, that sucks. Sorry, it didn't sell. Those days on market are a lot of days. Empathy is saying, well, let's think about a plan that we could do so we don't do that same thing. Would that be good to you? Yes, that'd be great. Let's put that plan together. Empathy is acting on others' behalf.
And like you just said too, is going in there and not, I mean, the best thing you just said is 2 ears, one mouth, and double the listening, less the talking. And I think so many people go into these scenarios and go, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get your household. My company's the biggest. I'm the greatest. I'm in the top, 0.445% of all agents, blah, blah, blah. I've been in business for 25 years. And they forget to just sit down and ask what happened, what's going on. So I think, diving into expireds, and you going into that path, what I guess for some of our listeners, what else have you learned? So that obviously is a big piece. You kind of hinted on there of starting early, obviously, and so what had attracted you to expireds, and you've had a lot of success with them. What's some tips and strategies for those out there that are going, I don't really know if I can do it, right? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the schedule. And you're earlier than me. I'm a 4:50 a.m. kind of guy. I think you're 4:30, but 4:50 a.m. and then I get into the routine. I get my exercise done. I do, a little bit of time just by myself in a quiet place to hit the reset button to think about my day, and then I'd be able to go out. And when I'm starting to make the emails, so I'm doing emails at 6:30 to every expired that comes up with a custom email that says their name, the address. Usually, if I can even pick out a couple elements of the home that are unique, I'll send them an email. 6:30, shower, come into work, and then 7:45, I am calling. I am calling to follow up on the email I sent them earlier. I'm also sending them a text as well saying, sorry, I missed you. I would love to have the chance to speak with you. And when I'm leaving my voicemails, I am over the top energetic and excited about, I can't believe your home didn't sell. I specialize in selling homes that didn't sell for whatever reason. I'd love the chance to talk to you. And people call back. I think if you leave a message of, hey, I just, your house came off the market, interested in talking, they'll leave. So I try and come from a place, even on the first call, the first time they hear my voice, to be like, that guy's got more empathy. That guy seems to really care. And I get calls back. And then I
Right.
go out and do my listing appointment, and I listen as much as I can. I listen to them and try and help them sell their home.
And then Chuck, I hear all the time, well, you know what, Brendan, I can't do that schedule because you don't understand. I have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old. I have four, whatever, I have 5 girls in high school. What do you say to that?
Well, I've tried it the other way. So I've tried it with, hey, I'm going to get my son up. We're going to go to the park. And then I might start calling some expireds at 2:30 in the afternoon. And guess who else has called them before 2:30? Every
Everyone.
other realtor, right? And so you're the 37th caller. When I call them at 7:45 and they've already received an email from me and then they've got a text from me, first mover advantage. Well, any advice I would say to someone who says, I can't do it, I would flip that around and say, you can't afford not to. If you're
Mm.
starting your business and you want to go and play tennis in the morning and have a latte and then do yoga and get to your desk at 2 in the afternoon, you're going to get results. If you even dedicated 2 hours, just 2 hours, Monday through Friday of prospecting, and you started at 7:30 in the morning, you could be able to still have time with your children in the middle afternoon, follow up, after that, and be able to go. You can still do it. Just 2 hours. And the most important 2 hours is first thing in the morning. It'll
But
get done
Chuck,
if it's first thing.
But Chuck, I'm terrified to pick up the phone and make a cold call. I came from the corporate world. I used to be a manager. I used to be an accountant. I'm terrified to pick up that phone and make that first call. What do I do? What do I do to get past that?
I feel like you recorded me on my first day. I feel like that was Chuck verbatim of, I don't want to call expireds. I don't want to call FSBOs. I'm better than that. And let's be honest, I thought that. I'm better than calling expireds. You know what? If you want a life that's worth living, you should call some expireds because you're helping them out. And if you come from a place of empathy, it's not cheesy selling. It's a place of empathy and you're a professional to help them out. So all that is in your mind. That's holding you back. Get into a brokerage that's going to provide you with role play. That was the biggest tipping point for me to come to KW is we have role play 4 times a week. And the agents who go to role play are the ones who are getting listings because they practice, they stumble, they fall, but they do it in a safe environment so that when they go on a listing appointment, they can go and get that full commission because they don't stumble and cave when they say, I don't want to give you the full commission. We've role played it 4 different times for 4 different types of buyers or sellers. So you're ready to go. Your heart rate doesn't even go up. Role play will get you that confidence to make the calls.
Yeah, and what I think with that too, and when we look at your career and the listings you've taken, you started taking some big listings like right out of the gate, 1.5 million, 1.7 million, 2 million. I think a lot of people go, oh my gosh, is luxury versus a $500,000. I see people all the time. They won't call a luxury expired because the limited belief is I'm not qualified to do that. How did you get past that, or were you just like, who cares? I'm here to rock and roll. What was your thought process on that?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that because there's 2 stages to this. The first stage was I would actually go in and look at expireds or FSBOs or whatever, and I would go, ooh, 700 north. I'm not calling that. I'm not calling that. And my coach actually said, Chuck, why don't you just put a little sticky tab over your screen so you can't even see the price point of these homes? So you're making a call and you're making a connection. That's all you're doing, whether it's a 250 or a 750. And you know what? When you book that appointment, you can take the sticky tab off and see what you won in that prize. And that was really great, great advice, because then it
Love
took
it.
out all of the stuff that was in my mind. I was just making the call. I was comfortable in my script. And then sometimes like jackpot, that's 950 or it's $175, but I'm still going to take it. And then the second thing was, after I got the competition of those reps in, and was really getting comfortable, I actually would start, and instead of scrolling down from the bottom, I would have my list come in from top, the most expensive down, and I would start with the most expensive and work my way down. But it was because I had the confidence of that sticky tab exercise, which I'd encourage anyone to do.
I love that. That is an amazing strategy right there in itself, because it doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter. The
It,
price, right?
all you're making is a connection.
Yeah, you're doing the same thing. So excellent. So now we are crushing expireds. We're doing all this, and then the amazing thing I think about real estate is you never know where that path is going to lead you. So then the opportunity arose because of your relentless hard work, dedication, to now become the CEO of a large brokerage in Denver, Colorado. Talk to me a little bit about that learning curve, and some of maybe the early on anxieties, and right in starting in the middle of a pandemic. So talk to me about that first couple of weeks.
Yeah. So it was a crazy transition. I was not expecting it. But when opportunity knocks, you answer the door. And I heard what the opportunity sounded like. It sounded interesting, and I think that if it was a year down the road, I would have said, like, let's do it now. And I took a night to think about it, and as with all decisions, had a conversation with Chris, and we made some pros and cons. And at the end of the day, we're like, this is going to get you uncomfortable. And Chris, my husband, pushed me. He's like, when you went into real estate, was that uncomfortable? And I said, yeah. And if you are comfortable with the uncomfortable, you're gonna succeed. And so took on the role. Big part of my job right now is making sure that our agents are operating at the highest possible level. So a lot of consulting, a lot of advising, a lot of listening, again, 2 ears, one mouth, and a lot of coming in from empathy, right? I've got agents who come in my office, they just got their first deal, it's high fives all around. And then right after that, someone bawling because 3 deals all fell off, right? It just happens. It's the roller coaster that is real estate. And I try and really drive as much as I can that support element. And then a second component of it is recruiting. We want great agents to join our brokerage. So I spend a lot of time on the phone. Different from an expired, where you know in the first 30 seconds, usually by click, if they're not going to work with you. With talking to other agents, they're happy to talk about their business, and you can be on the phone with them for 45 minutes and it's effortless. And then at the end, they're like, yeah, I'm not going to come over. And for me, it was the systems in place to continue that dialogue, that it's not just a cold call, it's a relationship that's beginning, so that they're getting a call from me, an email from me, a birthday card from me, because it's the same nurturing for bringing in new agents to our brokerage as it is to nurture lists and expireds and FISBOs.
Yeah. And I think, the big thing in that is, and we probably went a little faster past this than we should have, is, looking at the morning regimen, actually just your daily regimen, right? And you look at your daily regimen, and I hear it all the time. I can't get up at 5 a.m. I can't get up at 6 a.m. I can't even get up at 7 a.m. You hear this all the time. Were you always an early riser? Was that part of that regiment? Because I'm going to come back to the brokerage here in a second, but I think what applies to all of this is, with enough effort and enough empathy, you can do quite a bit in this world, right? I mean, if you just effort plus empathy, I might have to token that, right, equals success, right? I mean, think about that. I mean, not to say you're not the most brilliant person on earth, not to say that you're not the most talented, but you basically just care about people and work smart and work a lot when you're supposed to be working, and then also take time off, right? You actually enjoy life, and like you said, you wanted to enjoy being a father, being a husband, doing all these things. So how did you wake up one morning and you were like, I'm going to wake up at 4:50?
No, so in the beer business, I mean, nothing happens before noon. So, it was definitely a later environment, especially if I was doing karaoke in Tokyo until 3:30 in the morning. I wouldn't be, at work until 11 o'clock in the morning. That was the beer sales kind of lifestyle. A lot of the time is entertaining late at night and doing dinners and whatnot. And into real estate, when I first came in, I was kind of like, oh, this is great. I'm going to be able to walk my son to school and have a lazy, bacon and eggs every day. And then I'll be to the office at 10 and start making my calls. And I really leaned into to watching some other agents that I'd come in at 10 and they already had 2 listing appointments. I said, I want that. And when I asked, hey, Justin, what is your special sauce? He actually allowed me to sit in his office and watch his regimen of calling at 7:45 onwards. And by 9:15, he was preparing listing appointments that he was going on that same afternoon. And for me, that was a ching. That's the opportunity. If I could do that, and I know I can, just means going to bed a little bit earlier. I'm passed out by 9:30 at night. In bed by 9, dead asleep by 9:30, so I can get up at 4:50 next morning because that's when the opportunities are there.
Right. So then looking at that and going to now being a CEO and continuing that same regiment, there was never even a blip there where you said, well, now that I have this more 9 to 5, and I'm not saying what your role is 9 to 5 by any means. We know that no CEO role or anybody that's involved with running a brokerage is 9 to 5, but where again, it could be for some of those people out there. I know, people that run it that way and it's tough, but you decided to continue moving that pushing that same kind of level forward. And talk to me about how with I guess the accountability, how do you hold yourself accountable to your goals and what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah. So with respect to the morning routine staying the same, it was almost like I've worked so hard to get it. Why would I undo it? Right. If I just worked to get down to a certain weight, why would I undo it? Especially if I like living that lifestyle. And now in a leadership position, I've got stand up every day with my team at 8:30. I want to be prepared. I don't want to be coming in, late and scrambling with papers. So I'm in the office at 7:30. So I've got time in a calm environment, just like when I was calling expireds, to prepare when nobody else was here. It's nice and calm. I get a little bit of music, and that way when we have 8:30 and the day goes off for the rest of the day, full tilt, that I'm calm, cool, collective, and that I'm prepared to go with my team for that stand up. The stand up at 8:30 is a requirement. We've got to be there, and it's something that helps us set the day. So it was really important to me that I kept that regime the same.
Yeah, all I keep hearing here is regiment, routine, schedule. And I know you from talking to all the agents that you speak with about, their business and growing their business and building wealth and possibly all the different directions they're going. I think we would both agree the biggest thing that we always hear is I need to get more organized and I need to have a better schedule. So to those that are listening, what is one simple step that I can do to improve my routine or my schedule? Because that seems to be all the people I coach and work with, it's the number one problem. But you seem to have it pretty figured out.
I think it all has to come with time block, right? And think about it, the earlier you can get that time block, the less chance that that's going to get thrown off kilter. Right. So if your time block is from 6:45 until, even if it's only 9:45, that's great. Go and be effective during that time. It's like people who say, I'm going to go to the gym after work. Well, work goes late. There's all the excuses. People who say, I want to go for a run every single morning, the first thing I do before I wake up, they go for a run every morning because there's nothing that throws their calendar off. Right. So 2 things. One, I would say block it and stick to it. You're cheating yourself if you don't protect it. And then the second thing, the earlier in the day that you can have that time block, the less chance that it's going to be thrown off kilter.
Gotcha. And now, with you coaching agents, talking to so many people, I mean, if we looked back and said, geez, just in a 1 month period, you probably talk and have, over 500 conversations with agents, from internal, external, happy hours, this, that, and all of that, looking at all of that information and kind of tailoring it back to the leading with empathy. When you're having those conversations with not only the agent, but your internal team, when you look at that in your things are blowing up, right? Somebody doesn't show up on time, something does that. You seem pretty calm. How do you keep from losing your marbles, if you will?
Well, I think I've been described as many times. I'm like a duck on water, right? So underneath the water, it's crazy feet, but on top of the water, it just looks like it's glistening up on top of the water very calmly. So I think that I take stress on very well. But at the end of the day, my mind is going a million miles an hour. It might not look like it because I'm very aware. If I start as the leader of this organization, if I start showing my stress, if I start showing my cards, it's a trickle down effect. And so even though there might be 30 things that are blowing up on my phone or that I'm getting calls and all this stuff is going on, but I have an agent in my office that has dedicated a coaching session with me, they are my number one priority, and I don't let any of that noise in. So it's perception versus reality, man. There's a lot going on up here, but what I try and make sure that anyone who I'm talking to feels like they are the most important person in the room.
I love it. And with that regimen, and with you being one of the top in your field, and still being very new to it, but just coming out with just aggressive, amazing statistics, and really changing a culture of an office, and doing all of these things, it obviously takes a lot of leverage, right? That word, we love, leads, listings, leverage, right? The triangle of success as a real estate agent. What leverage do you have in place to be able to do all of this stuff? Because you're doing a ton. What is the leverage, right? Is it technology? Is it people? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'll kind of break it up into three. So from a life perspective, leveraging relationships. So my husband is a godsend. He's an amazing partner, amazing support for me. And I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for the support that I get from him. And then also it's give and take, right? So Saturday, guess who? Chris is going to play tennis and doing all the spa day, and guess who's got the boy? That's the relationship. That's the leverage point that we both have with each other. From a work perspective, as it relates to connecting with others, which is what it all comes down to, Brandon, is connecting with others, is I have a sphere of great people around me who I know have strengths, and I leverage their strengths. If it's I've got a new agent who's coming over, the top agent from Coldwell Banker who wants to join us, and I want them to connect with another agent. I know who's going to connect most to put her fears at risk, or fears, calm down her fears, not put her fears at risk, but calm down her fears. And I want to connect those two people. When it comes to systems, you've got to write everything down. Sounds so silly, but you think back to agents who are using Command, agents who are using Real Geeks, the agents who put in notes and paragraphs from that conversation, a month, 3 months, 9 months later, when they can pick up that conversation and say, how's your dog Billy? Is he recovering from his leg surgery? They think that they are the only client in your world, and they're going to sign with you. If you're like scrambling with papers, they're not going to remember you. You're not going to remember them, and it's garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, it would be hard to be empathetic if you don't actually listen, number one, and then don't keep detailed notes. I think for a lot of our listeners, they go, hey, I tried expireds, I tried this, prospecting thing or this lead generation thing, or even with my own database, but I just wasn't getting any traction. And I always go back and we say to them, take detailed notes, right? Because you're going to be talking to so many people in this business. And as I said with you, you must talk to hundreds and hundreds of agents. And not only agents, you still have a very successful real estate business as well. You couldn't do it without taking detailed notes, right? Like that sounds simple, but...
And that's just it. This stuff we're talking about, Brendan, right now in this whole conversation, nothing is rocket science. This is simple stuff about connecting with others, take detailed notes, and make sure that you're coming from a place of value and a place of empathy. Those would be the three key takeaways. And honestly, if you apply those to your business, you are going to get great success.
I love it. And then so with the CEO role and being this amazing team leader, coach, and doing all of these things, as you start to move forward, and we're hearing all these things with, well, we didn't even hint on the doing all this during COVID, right? Talk to me about, how you've had all of this success in a digital world, and what do you think's coming? What do you think's coming ahead? If you had a crystal ball a year from now, what does the industry look like? Are we back in training rooms and classes and going to seminars? And what do you think's gonna? Well, I guess what was it like, and what do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah. Well, the second one, I wish I had a crystal ball, but the first one, it's been tough. It's been tough, I think, because again, it's very tough to connect with someone over a phone, over a Zoom, and it's really easy to connect with someone over a cup of coffee, and we haven't had that opportunity, especially when an agent's saying, I've been with Remax 30 years. I'm not liking it. I've worked with 3 of your agents. They seem to adore what's going on over there. When can we talk? And when I have to say, well, I'll schedule a link and you can connect like this, it's not the same as walking around the office, seeing the buzz, seeing agents, really winning here in the office. It's not the same. So that is tough, and it is taking a lot more conversations over Zoom to build that rapport. But again, where there's a will, there's a way. So I think it just matters in how you look at it. And if it's got to be via Zoom, I'll take that over a phone call any day. I'll take a phone call over an email any day. And the grand kuba is having a live face-to-face conversation where you can see the expressions, you can feel the energy. And that's kind of how you have to prioritize.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. And I think, but a lot of people during the COVID said, I'm just going to chill. Like, it's not even worth the battle. And you definitely had an opportunity there where you could either have said, and I think there was some times, where all of us said to ourselves, I'm not that we were making excuses, but we were saying, my results are this because of COVID, right? My results are this because of COVID. And then for some people just said, COVID's an opportunity. I'm not even an opportunity because that sounds bad. And I get, it's a terrible thing, but it's an opportunity to either level up or crawl into a little hole and say that my goals this year are not going to be met because I have to do it through Zoom, or my goals are not going to be met because I can't do an open house. How did you get past that?
Yeah, so I think more so when COVID first hit and we went down to a lockdown, right? That was tough, and we had a all hand meeting where all 180 of our agents got into a Zoom. We said, guys, this is what we need you to do. We need you to call everyone in your database. Don't be ashamed if you haven't talked to them in 2 years. You're calling everyone in your database, and your call is not to sell. Your call looks like this. Hey, Brennan, I was thinking about you the other day. How are things going? Oh, homeschooling is crazy, blah, 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 blah. I'm sharing an office with my husband. Let him speak. Hey, Brennan, what can I do to make your life easier? You know what, Chuck? This is such a crazy request. We are out of hand sanitizer, and Walgreens, Walmart, no one's got them. Hey, I've got a half a bottle in my garage. I'm going to pop it on your porch this afternoon. That was it. We had 180 agents calling their database of thousands and thousands with that simple call and coming from a place of value and empathy. Guess what happened in April of this year versus April of last year? Our production, our sold listings in a month that we were locked down, we were up 17% versus
Wow.
April of last year where we didn't have any COVID. So there's no excuses on the table for any one of our agents at the office. Head down, and we were coming from a place of value, and we got stuff done.
Yeah, and you really saw, for some people come together, and then others, like I said, didn't. I know some offices just basically closed the doors and said, "Hey," and we heard that, right? Right? You were telling me stories of agents that were talking to you, being like, "You guys are still doing business," like almost surprised in the fact. So yeah, I think that's a true credit to just the mindset. So taking all of that and fast forwarding it, and again, not to say the crystal ball question, but we've got election coming up. We've got possibly either second wave of COVID, possibly talks of a recession. So you're sitting here 12 months from now. What do you think that landscape looks like?
Yeah, I truly think that there's still going to be people who want to buy and sell real estate. I think that there is going to be a lot of agents we have 44,000 agents in the state of Colorado. I'm not so sure in 12 months we're going to have 44,000 agents in the state of Colorado, which for whether you're new, whether you're seasoned, but if you're seeking opportunity, there's going to be more than enough business for you. I think the people who are forward looking and can see success are going to be successful. The ones who are thinking of all the excuses and all the what ifs in advance, what if there's an allow, what happens if the election gets pushed back? What if this, those are the ones that are going to be so worried that literally they're sticking the head in the sand while others are making deals happen. I really think that the next
Yeah.
12 months, especially here in Colorado, the business is going to continue to be done differently, but it's going to be successful for those who go out and get it.
I love it. So, looking at it and just saying, hey, I really, if I'm an agent out there or I'm transitioning from corporate world to possibly thinking about, real estate, how can people connect with you? I'm sure we're going to get some questions. What's the best way to reach out to you?
Absolutely. So, you know what? I would love to have a conversation. So, my phone number is 720-369-5320. If you want to send me an email, I'm chuckbuckingham@kw.com. Send me a note and we'll find a time to meet up. But I would love to have conversations. I really enjoy talking to agents who are successful and agents who want to be successful. And I'm all ears to be able to help you get there.
No, love it, and we'll also put that in the bio below and make sure that there's all the ways we can connect in it. Well, Chuck, I can't thank you enough. I know everybody's going to take a ton from this. I think to kind of summarize it, and I think what we're really going to be looking forward to is hopefully, regardless of you teaching this empathy class at some point, either in person, hopefully one day,
Yeah.
or even digitally. I think that's such a game changer that if people really pay attention to how valuable that switch is in the minds of how you look at the world. And I can't say enough about how I'm impressed by how you've conditioned your mind to, and not only to do it as, hey, I'm doing this because it's going to get me sales, but it's your lifestyle, right? It kind of became who you are. And I think if people can really dial that in, nothing's going to be able to stop them. So again, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. We'll make sure everybody can connect with you. If you have any questions for Chuck Buckingham, again, reach out to him. He's an absolute superstar. And as always, we wish all of you out there great success.
Thank you.